good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, where today we continue to dive into Priscilla, 1978. We're trying to finish off an article. It's a long one, and it's got one right after it in the same magazine from Priscilla. So we're going to try to finish them both if we can, but I've got some other surprises. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Mike. Thank you both for joining. Appreciate seeing you here. We're going to get started with a song. And this song is Pounding at the Gates.
I hear him loading up the stories, hear him dialing up the dates, hear his brothers turning witnesses to the pain he couldn't shake. Red says everything he got from him, but I can hear the hurt behind it like a crack of blame. Dave's boiling blood is pounding on the gates of Graceland, shouting, face me like a man, but never knowing he was hurt. He left town in the night, not to hide, just to breathe, but they took it as a knife, as a wound they couldn't leave. They say they saved his life, they say they stood their ground, but he was burning from the inside and they never heard the sound. Face me like a man. He gave love and friendship every chance, but it slipped right through the fingers. Shed and swallowed by the cracks of time. Sabotage his name. No, they're sabotaging their own pain. They loved him, yeah, he knows it, but they love the legend more than that. Red's calling every friend Elvis ever had, asking dates, asking stories, turning memories into shrapnel for a book full of words as he wrote it for the money. Then he says he wrote it out of love, but love don't come with lawyers and a push from up above. Dave bursts in a gun, ball on his hip, says he ain't here to hurt nobody, just wants to look him in the eye and hear the words again. But the wolves were in the fold, the wolves they never saw. They saw the jumpsuits in the spotlight, not the threat behind the wall. Say they knew his shape, they say they knew his fall, but they only saw the surface while he was screaming through it all. Face me like a man. He gave love and friendship every chance, but it slipped right through the fingers. Shed and swallowed by the cracks of time. Sabotage his name. No, they're sabotaging their own pain. They loved him, yeah, he knows it, but they love the legend more than that. He called Red when he knew the book was coming. His voice was shaking like a sinner in the pew. He wasn't angry, his heart was broken. He was scared of losing those with who he shared the truth. And when the radio said his name that August morning, they pulled their cars to the side of the road. They cried, they froze, they remembered the man they couldn't reach anymore. Face me like a man. He was dying in slow motion, trying to hold the world together with a heart that lost devotion. Sabotage my name. No, this was always a two-way flame. You loved him, yeah, you know it, but you couldn't see the man in pain. He never meant to lose you. You were never meant to run. He didn't want to face the ending of the story you left undone.
Thank you for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. And today we're going to hear those echoes from Priscilla Presley. We've been following this one. This is our third episode into this article. She's had a lot to say, and she's still got more. But first, we've got to see what's on the bookshelf. We've got a non-Elvis book, and we got an Elvis book to take a look at. And today, our first non-Elvis book is Bob Newhart. I shouldn't even be doing this. and other things that strike me as funny. So I love Bob Newhart. And I really like the 70s Bob Newhart show, where he played a psychologist and he worked on the floor of a high-rise building with a dentist, and they had a receptionist named Carol. He had another show named Newhart, a sitcom in the 1980s, but it was really funny at the time, but now it's it didn't hold up well. Let's put it that way. I can't find it entertaining anymore. But the original Bob Newhart show, hilarious, and he pulled that from his stand-up comedy in the 1960s. So Jerry Seinfeld did not invent bringing the sitcom or crafting a sitcom around a stand-up routine. Bob Newhart did that. I'm sure there were others. Andy Griffith did it. There was a host of them. Milton Berle kind of did it, but Bob was right there in the 70s. People love Bob. His best friend was Don Rickles. Can't say I was ever as big a fan of Don's. But apparently, Bob and his wife and Don and his wife, they were the best of friends. They went on all vacations together, things like that. I have not read this book. I always want to read it. I think Bob is hilarious, so eventually I'm going to get around to this one. And Elizabeth says that she likes him too, and she bets that's a good one. And Mike says that one looks interesting. And Mike says that he really likes the Nelsons, Ozzie and Harriet, and Rick and David. I like that show too. It's hard to find that show out streaming anywhere, though. At least on the free zones. That's where I like to stay at. Mike says that he watches the Nelsons a lot. So where are you watching that at? And Andy Griffith and Leave It to Beaver. Now, those are all over the place. Andy Griffith and Leave It to Beaver. They are great shows if there's anybody out there that's never seen them. Hi, Carolyn loves Elvis forever. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. We're about to look at the Elvis book, the selection for the day. This one is from the Army years. It's Sergeant Presley. Our untold story of Elvis's missing years. Now that's a little bit of a fib because Rex and Elizabeth Mansfield with Marshall and Zoe Terrell. Marshall and Zoe, they're the ones that I think got this ready for publication. But Rex and Elizabeth, they had published basically all of these stories before in another book. This was a second book that they published. I think this is the one you can still get today, like from the Spa Guy. He's got a whole bunch of signed copies of it. I don't have a signed copy. Unfortunately, Rex has passed away. So whatever a small amount that the Spa Guy still has, if he has any, that's all that's left. But mine was originally a library book, but it looks like it was only checked out twice, January and March 2003, and that's probably why they let it go and how it ended up in my hands. It's in really good condition for a library book. Let's take a look at the back. It's got some pictures. Now, Rex was like, you could think of him as like Super Joe Esposito. He would have been Joe, except that Rex didn't take the position. You know, usually everybody took the position when Elvis offered it. Elvis offered it to Rex. He talked it over with the Colonel. Rex talked it over privately with Colonel Parker. And Colonel Parker told him, Rex, and he didn't say this exactly, but this was the gist of the conversation. Rex, you can do things. You're efficient. You're capable. That's not what describes any of these other people that Elvis has working for him. And that's when Rex decided he didn't really want to work for Elvis, but he had this other thing going on where he wanted to marry Elizabeth, and she was living at Graceland. She was kind of supposed to be Elvis's second girlfriend. She wasn't exactly sure what's going on because Anita was there as well. And then Elizabeth, she left. And the day that she left, she was supposed to get paid. They'd worked out this elaborate deal where she would drive away and meet Rex somewhere. And she was very nervous, and Elvis could sense she was nervous, and she ran off. She got in her car, she drove down to the gates, and that's when she realized she'd forgot to pick up her paycheck. So she was going to go meet Rex and run away, but she went ahead and turned around and came back. Elvis was holding her paycheck, and she got it from him, and he asked her a couple of questions about what she was going to do. They had a very uncomfortable conversation, and then she left, and I believe that's the last time Elizabeth ever saw Elvis. But I don't think she tells it exactly that way in this book. It's something like that. But this is a decent book if you've never read it. There is another one if you've got the earlier version. I don't remember the name of it. But it's also written by these two. And these two show up in virtually all of the books that talk about the Army years. And they should, because Elizabeth was living in the house at Bad Neuheim with Elvis. And Rex was over there all the time. And Rex was the favorite. Joe was runner-up. And now we can move over to what we're all here for, the Priscilla story of the day. We're in Memphis. It's 1977. Now, I've got to mention this because it's March 14th, and this sale ends tomorrow. If you like the songs that I do, and you want to get a CD of them, they're actually available right now, but it's overseas in London, at least for those of us that live in America. The shipping is much, much cheaper in Europe and UK. So if you live there, I think this is a pretty good deal. If you're in America and you just really want the CD, this is the cheapest it's going to be available for a while. 15% off if you use this code March 15th. It's over at elasticstage.com/Hillbilly Cat History. And it's the 12 windows of the King's Heart. So it'll take you to this page, and you click on the little CD, and then it'll open up this, and then you can order if you like or see what the price is and all that good jazz. But I just want to mention that today because their sale ends tomorrow. But let's take a look at Priscilla in 1978. We saw that she's with this guy in 1976. But that by 1978, now he's a hairstylist. If you want to know more about that, be sure to see yesterday's episode. It's waiting for you in the archive. That's the channel under the live section. But he's a hairstylist. He's French. That's why she's wearing the beret. She's with this guy. That's Mike Edwards in 1978. And she says Elvis would never have been happy married to a starlet. He was always happiest when he was at Graceland. He'd sit around the house and play the piano and sing, or he'd be happy sitting on the couch with his feet propped up on the coffee table, playing bass guitar along with his records. Not that life was all one happy bundle of fun, and if his career wasn't going right or he was depressed, he'd sometimes retire to his bedroom for days at a time, and I was the only one who could go in and talk to him. Elvis would spend a couple of days criticizing everything from the coffee to the clothes I was wearing. those were the times he'd go off on spending sprees. It seemed to be his way of getting the anger out of his system. So Priscilla says that Elvis dealt with anger by spending a lot of money, and that he criticized the coffee. Now, when she says that he criticized the coffee, I'm wondering if she made the coffee. There was this strange thing we noticed in 1967 when they were on the Circle G, and she kept saying that she made the coffee every morning. And Joe Esposito, unknowing that Priscilla has said this, was saying that every morning before they even got out of bed, Elvis was knocking on the door. He'd come around for a cup of coffee. So I kind of think that this is saying that Priscilla didn't make very good coffee. And he also criticized the clothes she was wearing. You got to wonder what clothes she was wearing. If we were going to make a true judgment on this, I'd want to see the clothes. But it sounds like Priscilla's saying that Elvis was difficult to deal with at certain times. At least for her, he was difficult to deal with at certain times. And during those times, he would often spend a lot of money. And it's interesting to notice that she notes he's spending money. I mean, it's not her money. Why is she noting the money that he's spending? But she does. And Carolyn says, blah, blah. She's got a lot to say. But let's catch up with what somebody else has to say from a later time period. But I think it's illustrative of what Elvis was going through after Priscilla left and before he passed away. So this is a time period that I think Priscilla's not an expert at, and yet which she seems to be talking about in all of the interviews during this time period. And this is from Jeannie LeMay, who was Linda Thompson's friend, and she was there at least for that first year, maybe the second. I'm not sure how long Jeannie was connected to Elvis and Linda. But this is when she was on Geraldo. This is a clip we haven't seen yet. And Elizabeth says that she was going to say blah, blah, but it's his money and not hers. Or I think that's what Elizabeth was going to say. It was his money and not hers. But here's Jeannie LeMay. Let's hear what she has to say to Geraldo, who's maybe a tad worse even than Priscilla.
You know, I met Elvis a couple of times.
Yes, I know.
The legendary impresario Jerry Weintraub was my agent, and he took me backstage every time Elvis was in New York.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, in the beginning of the 70s. He was a terrific guy. He had a kind of shyness that seemed, I don't know, it seemed almost...
Now, Jerry Weintraub, he has this amazing story about the Colonel and this giant garbage bag full of cash. And the Colonel dumps it out all on Jerry's desk, and he says, "This is your half." And Jerry says, "Of what?" And he says, "Of the merchandise deal." And he says, "We don't have a merchandise deal." And he says, "Jerry, are we partners or are we not partners?" And that's how Jerry got a trash bag full of money on his desk. But to tell that story right, we'd have to hear the whole thing and everything that led up to it. But one day we will do that. Apparently, Jerry was connected to Geraldo.
Almost a fake shyness in a way. I'm not certain I'm expressing it right, but
a little boy quality. I think like a childlike, right?
And he was that, and he was that. And I couldn't really buy it. I couldn't believe that a guy who's lived a life, with so many millions of people being so entertained by him, would have that kind of demeanor. But do you?
Geraldo's not buying it. Geraldo doesn't believe that Elvis could be innocent at heart, that he could be good, that he could be exactly what he appears to be. That Geraldo doesn't believe that Elvis could do that. And that tells you something very deep about Geraldo. That tells you who Geraldo was even in 1978. Or 1979 when this, I don't remember when this was the 80s, I think. but it tells you something about who Geraldo himself is.
Do you think that he really loved Linda Thompson, who he was with for those years?
Absolutely.
Do you think that she was the great love of her life, of his life? Was it Priscilla? Was it Ginger Alden?
Listen to him get Priscilla in there. Was it Priscilla? She's already said, Jeannie already said absolutely Elvis loved Linda. And now Geraldo's trying to twist it around. Wasn't it Priscilla? Wasn't it really Priscilla?
Priscilla obviously was the mother of his child. He definitely loved Priscilla, but you know, she left, and you know, he found Linda. And
so Jeannie just said something very profound there. She left. She acknowledged that Elvis loved Priscilla, and then said the most important part: she left. And Elizabeth says that Geraldo was not a nice guy at all, especially to Elvis. He built his entire career off of Elvis, off of making Elvis look bad. That is the truth of Geraldo. And Carol, this is an entertainment-only show. Let's always remember my opinions only. So if you got opinions, put them into the chat. Put them into the contents. But in my opinion, Geraldo built his entire career off of Elvis. And Carolyn says, didn't Jesus say to have the heart of a child? Elvis was so endearing, and he had the heart of a child. I think that Elvis had the ability to be honest with people, and that's not something that Geraldo either has or can experience with others. And Ange says that Carolyn loves this topic. And LOL. Let's hear what else Jeannie has to say. She seems to be a fairly wise woman.
I think they had a definite rapport and chemistry. You know, same sense of humor, contagious laughter between the two of them. And this sweet, you know...
Contagious laughter, sense of humor. You never hear anyone describe Priscilla in that manner. Now, I'm not saying that makes Priscilla a terrible person in any way. It's not a judgment against Priscilla. It's just that no one knows Priscilla for her humor or ability to laugh. I've seen Priscilla laugh a few times. I've heard her crack a couple of jokes, but nothing like Linda can do. So Jeannie's absolutely right about this. And it's just a massive contrast between Linda Thompson and Priscilla Presley. Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here.
Baby talk that would go back and forth. Just adorable. Elvis needed nurturing. He did nurture.
Now, Jeannie doesn't have a problem with the baby talk. Everybody jumps on it and they talk. They say that it's got to be some side of some terrible part of their relationship together, that he demeans people with this baby talk, or it's some kind of regression, or blah, 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 blah. Jeannie just jumps in there and says it's adorable. It was just so adorable to watch him do it. Carolyn says that she's dying to say some things, but she'll keep her mouth shut. You can say whatever you like, Carolyn, as long as it's not obscene, but you never would, so I'm not worried about that.
Linda was everything to him, like a nurse and a lover, a best friend. She was everything, and she took so good care of him that a lot of people...
I think that's a contrast with Priscilla as well, that Linda, she was everything to Elvis. That she took on all of these different roles. And that's not something you really hear about Priscilla either. And she doesn't describe herself that way, I don't think. She basically was Priscilla. Now, she was Priscilla and she did these different things, like she did her mothering things, and she did her wife things, and she did her bride things, and she did her Priscilla things, right? But she didn't nurture Elvis in this manner of taking on these different roles. At least it doesn't appear from the way that she and others describe the situation, but people almost always describe Linda in this manner, that she molded herself to what Elvis needed at the time, and that she found fulfillment in that, and that they were able to pass that happiness back and forth, at least for a couple of years.
Felt that if she was with him, that he'd still be alive, which of course, isn't to be.
Jeannie, I've got to go, honey.
And Monica says that she has only heard Priscilla laugh at her own sayings. That's an interesting and probably a good point. I'm not going to say that's not true. Yeah, I don't know. I've maybe seen her laugh once at somebody else's joke. And Elizabeth says that I don't see that anything was wrong with the baby talk. I don't either. I mean, that's the way that they talked together. They were a couple. They had their special language. It was comforting to the both of them. They were in their private moments and areas. The only people who saw this were like in their bedroom. So I don't think it's a big deal at all. And Carolyn says that Priscilla was not nurturing, that she doesn't think that Priscilla was that way. And Monica agrees. And Ann is asking, who is this person named Jeannie? This is Linda Thompson's best friend. This was Miss Rhode Island Universe. And Linda was Miss Tennessee Universe. And they were together that first night at the Memphian when Linda met Elvis. And then Jeannie was there like all the time during that first year. She got a job working for Elvis as his secretary. I don't know how long the whole thing lasted. She does have a book out there that you can purchase. I've never read it. It has the pictures that she took while she was there at Graceland, and it's one of the few books that documents what Graceland looked like after Elvis had renovated it with Linda. So she was there for at least a few years, or was coming back in and out for a few years. And Carolyn says there is nothing wrong with the baby talk, that it's sweet. And Mark says that Elvis and Gladys talk like that to each other, and he thinks it was innocent fun. Well, and that's the other part, is that it was Gladys. Every woman that Elvis is serious about, he's trying to find some piece of Gladys. So anything that they do that reflects Gladys, he will lean into. He really likes that. Linda found that she could do the baby talk and that he responded well to it. And I don't know that she understood how closely it linked him to Gladys. But it also linked him back to his childhood because he had a secret language with his cousin, Gene. And they could talk in a way together that no one else could understand. And they did this until Gene finally broke away from the inner circle sometime in the middle 1960s. I think it was like 65 or 66. Might have been 64, but I think it was 65 or 66. But until that time, Elvis and he could talk and no one else knew what they were saying. Elvis completely lost that when Gene left. So he picked it up a bit with Linda again, and that was just a way that he got close to people. But it really, I think, brought him back to Gladys. Now, Jeannie has something to say, but Geraldo, he's like one of the worst hosts of like all time.
But I thank you for coming on. Now I know how to say your name.
Oh,
I want you to come back.
Now I know how to say your name. He had this woman come on his national television show. He didn't bother to figure out how to say her name first. And then after she corrects him, this is kind of a dig and a shaming of her at the end. I was the host, and then you tried to shame me by showing that I didn't know your name. So I'm going to mention it here at the very end because I'm very petty in that way. My name is Geraldo.
I appreciate it, and I just want to say that the book
is Elvis, Linda, and Me,
and it's the collector's edition because there is a.
And see, he tried to throw her off of here without promoting her book, which is the only reason she's here. It's the only reason that she's taken this off of him. She, and I believe her book is probably lovely. It probably says lovely things about Elvis. She has done nothing but say lovely things about Elvis in this interview. And she probably walked away from this hating this thing. And then he tries to, again, kind of make a dig at her by showing, yes, we've got the book and we've shown the book.
Black and white one out there, but it's the collector's edition with 70 pictures.
We've got it, Jeannie. We've got it.
Really lovely. Thank you for being with me. We'll be right back.
And then he thanks her for being with him and looks and smiles into the camera. They can't even leave with her in the camera. Never ever go on the Geraldo show. That's what the lesson here is. Unfortunately, Dr. Nick didn't know that lesson. And many other people didn't. And Jeannie probably shouldn't have come here either. But maybe she sold some books from it. So I don't know. And Pamela's saying that she's got Gene Smith's book, but she has not read it. It's a decent book. It's kind of difficult to understand. I think Gene's got a bit of a... He's bitter about something, and it comes through in the book. And so he'll be rolling along in a story, and suddenly it will just feel like he's very angry at the people in the story. And Monica says that she believes, though, that Linda overreacted about the baby thing. Could be. Could be. But, maybe she thought that was her way to have special time with Elvis. And in a way it was. And Elizabeth says that Geraldo was a jerk. And Carolyn agrees that he was. But we get to see someone who came from before Geraldo. This is a clip with Rona Barrett. And Rona, well, she was at the wedding in a way. She chased George Klein in 1967 all over Palm Springs, trying to get the lowdown gossip on Elvis's wedding. But she did not take the Colonel's advice and go to Las Vegas. So she was not there when they got married. She'd been after Elvis for years. She's a gossip columnist. And he sold a lot of papers for her. She did a lot of columns about Elvis. She was always trying to find or dig up information on him. When he died, that same day, she went on the air and said that she'd interviewed people who wrote Elvis What Happened, so she was absolutely certain that she would be found correct in history when she, even though she'd already heard the coroner say no drugs, she said it was drugs. And she said she'd be borne out because she talked to people that wrote a book that hadn't known Elvis for a year. And obviously that's better than the medical information that came straight from the coroner. And she said it that night. And here we are a few years later, 1978, 2 years later. Priscilla is doing exclusive interviews with the National Enquirer. The year before, she was doing them with the Star. I guess Star ran out of money or something. You wouldn't think they had. I mean, they're making all that Elvis What Happened money because they were behind Elvis What Happened. But I guess Priscilla got a better deal from the Enquirer, and she gives them a national exclusive. And she also goes on the Rona Barrett show. Rona Barrett's running a television show.
You feel about seeing all the things that happened this past year? What was your reaction to it?
It hurts. I knew it would happen. I could see it coming the day that he died. It was just the beginning.
Now, what is everything that's happened in the last year? Is that all the stories that are coming out in the tabloids? The ones about Priscilla? The ones in which she gave exclusive interviews? I mean, I feel like she would have known those were coming. And she seems to be saying that it's unfortunate there's been a storm of these stories that have come out from other people. Hi, Tori. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here.
And it's been a lot of exploitation. And I think what hurts...
A lot of exploitation. Yeah, but about who? I mean, I'm thinking Elvis was exploited, and I'm not sure that his ex-wife really has a thing to say about what happens to the exploitation of her ex-husband. It's just all so strange. But there's been exploitation. And maybe, I guess, she's worried about money Lisa's not getting or something from the exploitation.
Mostly is the people that were very close. And again, you know, it's human nature, and you try to justify.
It's mostly the people that were very close. I wonder if Priscilla was close. And then she says it's human nature and you try to justify it. I wonder what Priscilla was trying to justify. Is she trying to justify the fact that others are telling stories? Or is she trying to justify the fact that she's here on what is essentially a television tabloid program? It's a tabloid magazine on television. She's also receiving money from the National Enquirer for her exclusive interview over there. I'm sure this isn't the only money she's getting from telling things about Elvis, even if they're good things. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad or what she's saying about it, but there's definitely money exchanging hands here. But she's worried that other people who were close seem to be doing exactly what she is doing. And Tori says she might have been the main one.
It, but it still hurts.
Could you tell me what you were thinking not long ago, that day in Vegas when you went for the unveiling of Elvis's statue?
Now, Monica says that Priscilla is a talker just for the sake of it. And if you listen to this first exchange between these two, that's exactly kind of what's going on here. Rona asks a non-question, and Priscilla gives a non-answer. And there's basically a lot of noise on what really was dead air for a few moments, because I'm not sure that any information passed back and forth between these two or to the audience.
It was a touching moment. It was sitting on stage, knowing what we were doing there. It didn't seem real. Looking out at the audience, seeing all the people there, and having them play his music. I can't even put it in words. It wasn't right. It was beautiful that they were presenting this statue, but it didn't feel right. Elvis wasn't there.
Do you get any special?
A lot strange about that answer too, but let's see what else she said in this article. She says that although Elvis talked about getting out of the business, we both knew that could never be. He simply wouldn't be a complete person if he wasn't on stage thrilling audiences. I think we'd have both been very happy to live the rest of our lives without being married. But that wasn't the way you did things in those days. I remember it was Christmas Eve, so I think she's saying that before they got married, they would have been happy to live their lives without being married. I'm not really sure that's true. I feel like she wanted to be married. I mean, I can't prove that in any way, but I feel like she was living her entire life in order to be married to Elvis. That's kind of the way she presents it in Elvis and Me. Now, of course, that book's going to be years after this particular interview. And she says Elvis She says, I remember it was Christmas Eve 1966 when Elvis proposed. It wasn't a formal proposal. We both knew we'd be married one day. Now, isn't that a strange thing to say, too? Now, we went through 1966, December, trying to figure out when they actually got engaged. And here she's saying it was definitely Christmas Eve. There's another story that the night that it was, they went to the Memphian. So I'm assuming that's the same night, the Christmas Eve 1966. So she says Elvis proposed Christmas Eve 1966, and then she says it wasn't a proposal. Now, she uses the word formal, but she says it's not a proposal. What does that mean? Does it mean that he just gave her a ring and he didn't say anything? She says we both knew we'd be married one day. He doesn't say that Elvis asked her to marry him. Now, at the Memphian, she shows the ring to people, and it's an engagement ring. But isn't that a strange way to tell the story? And Carolyn says it must have been so devastatingly hard having Elvis, like Priscilla did. And Priscilla says, he gave me this small package, and inside was a beautiful 4-carat diamond ring. Okay, so this is interesting. I guess this is how the non-formal proposal happened. Priscilla says, Elvis gave me this small package, and inside was a beautiful 4-carat diamond ring surrounded by 20 smaller diamonds. He didn't have to say, will you marry me? I knew what was in his heart. Is this saying that Elvis did not ask Priscilla to marry him? Isn't it strange that Elvis married a woman that he didn't ask to marry him? Now, Ginger's story is that he actually asked. That he gave her the ring and he asked. I wonder if that's why Priscilla is so angry about that particular, the Ginger portions of the story. Priscilla says she knew what was in his heart. I think it'd have to be hard to be a woman or a man and be engaged now to someone, yet neither of you has actually formally declared that you love each other enough to be married. Neither of you has agreed that you will be married. You're just wearing the ring. This seems to me to make a tense and always nervous situation. I don't know. What do you guys think? And Pamela says that Priscilla tells how he came to her dressing room and she made him say the password. And Elizabeth says it does sound like she is saying that he didn't ask her to marry him. And Carolyn says that she's reading Ginger's book. It's so lovely. And she's at the devastating part and can't continue. It's too hard. I've got a couple songs about that. So Priscilla says she knows what was in Elvis's heart, and she says, well, let me find the next thing she says. Yeah, let's make sure there's nothing up here. Okay. She says Elvis was working so hard that he hardly was ever home. And as a young bride, I wanted to be with my husband. I did not want to share him with the rest of the world. I can't really fault her for that, but I do believe that that causes a lot of problems in their relationship. Her expectations for when he'll be available are not realistic. And Monica says it is strange they got married. And Mike says he's always wondered if Priscilla really wanted to marry Elvis or to marry his checking account, and he thinks maybe the latter. And Elizabeth says she thinks it had to be a very tense situation. And then Pamela's saying that the rest of that story she was telling is the password to be let in and that he proposed. So which version is correct? Yeah, which version is correct? Either? And Elizabeth is asking if Ginger's book is good. It is excellent. It's an excellent book. And Monica says that Priscilla had a plan from the beginning. And Priscilla says, I felt that Elvis had enough money that he should take time off to travel. I wanted to go to Europe, to Africa, to go on safari, to go camping, but Elvis had commitments that had been planned years ahead. He kept telling me we have plenty of time to travel. This passage tells me that Priscilla did not understand the way the revenue streams worked in the business. Not in 1978 and not before. I don't think she might have said this story later because by then she would have understood how these revenue streams worked, and they're faucets. You turn them on, they start pouring out this revenue, but you have to put a little work into it to keep that faucet flowing. You got to keep that pump primed, and you can't do that by taking time off and traveling to Europe. And this thought that he had enough money to pay the payroll, and then to bring in more money and pay the payroll, and to keep everything running. And sure, things would have gone for maybe 6 months or a year, maybe. I don't think he was really in a solvent enough state to make that happen most of the time. Most people are not. Whether you're rich or not, you're not in that kind of state. But he didn't have money the way she's thinking of money, and the way that the other Memphis Mafia thinks about money. They think of it like Scrooge McDuck, that there's this money bin and it's just full of all this money, and all Elvis is doing is swimming around in it, and otherwise it's not doing anybody any good. But that's not the way Elvis's money worked. Elvis's money was like a reservoir that's controlled by a dam, and the dam's always open and money's flowing out all the time, but it looks like it's always full because there's a constant inflow from somewhere else. The minute that flow stops, all the money drains out of the reservoir. She is not able to see that. And what Elvis means when he tells her we have plenty of time to travel is someday these foolish people who keep pouring the money into the revenue streams will wake up and say, hey, this is just a kid from Tupelo, and they'll stop paying me. And at that moment, we'll have all the time in the world. This is the same thought as when the fans stop bothering me, it's time to get very worried because you got plenty of time on your hands at that point because nobody's buying your records. Let's hear what else Priscilla has to say to Rona.
Feelings if you turn on your car radio or turn on your house radio and hear Elvis's music?
Oh, absolutely. Because I know what was going on during all the songs that were being recorded at the time, what was said, what the feeling was toward the song, if he should do the song. So the memory of what was happening during that time comes up. It's difficult. It's difficult listening to the records. It's difficult. Your mind starts to wonder. It starts to go back, and again you try to think, well, that's not Elvis, but you can't escape it.
I would really like to know specifically which song she's talking about and to get a memory for each song. She's talking in generalities about songs, and there's plenty of songs she wasn't around for or didn't know anything about. Even when she was with Elvis, there would have been plenty of songs that he probably didn't say anything to her about. So whatever these songs are that have the specific memories, that would be really interesting information, but Rhoda's not going to follow up on that, so we're never going to get to know. Mike says that he saw where Elvis wrote Priscilla's parents a $10,000 check for home improvements. And Elvis asked, how would $10,000 be? That they needed home improvements, and then he just asked them how much, and they said $10,000. And Pamela says that Elvis never really made his money work for him. If he had invested, it would have made him much, or he would have ended up with much more. Of course, he didn't really need it. He had plenty of money on the day that he passed away. He hadn't spent it all. So I've often wondered that too. Would it have, I mean, did he need to make more money? Would it just been more money for everybody to fight over? Lisa didn't get any of that money that he left. She got like a whole new batch of money that had been made through EPE and stuff. But all that original money had dwindled away and been spent and gone. Luckily, some of it had been invested in ways that kept her investment liquid. Or at least Graceland. At least he kept it Graceland. But, yeah, would it have been better if he did have a lot more money? Or would more vultures have just come in and ripped everything away? And maybe Lisa wouldn't have had it. And Carolyn says that Elvis was too generous for his own good. And he gave his fortune away. And he was such wonderful and selfless. Yeah, I don't think money meant anything to Elvis as money. And Carolyn says this is tactics, that wasn't her real voice, and that she's seen Priscilla in interviews where she talks normal. She does have a very public persona that is hard to get through. So hard I don't know if there's a persona underneath it. I would assume there has to be, but... And Mike says that she reeks of dishonesty. And Debbie says that she thinks with most movie stars, they can alternate their voices and make it sound high. Yeah, and she's working hard to learn to be an actress at this moment. So maybe this is the beginning of that for her. Or maybe it was just a natural talent she already had. Tori says that money meant nothing to Elvis. He just loved to spend it. And Carolyn says he was naturally joyful. And Tori says that she thinks he always thought, I'll just do another concert. Exactly. That's wrapped up in this. We'll have plenty of time to travel too. He's just going to keep doing more concerts. We're going to keep this ball rolling until it's over. Then we'll have plenty of time for whatever. We'll have all that money stacked up, or hopefully Vernon will have saved something, and we'll have to take care of it then. But I also think he felt like he was going to tour in Europe, and therefore there would be that travel time. It would be built into his career. And Mike says that Elvis loved to see loved ones and friends' reactions when he gave money and gifts. And Monica says that it was his money to spend. That's right. It was his to spend any way he wanted.
I'm curious to know, did Elvis at any time sit and discuss with you his performances?
Sure. Oh, yeah. There was some he loved, some he hated, some he didn't want.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I don't know that that sounded very convincing.
To do. Some he had fun with, but Elvis was a perfectionist. If a performance didn't go like he wanted it, he'd be upset for days over it.
Could he accept criticism?
Not really. No.
It's also interesting that he'd be upset for days if a performance didn't go right. You don't really see that from him on stage. There's some others that indicate his perfectionism in that way. It's clear when he's recording that he wants to be a perfectionist. But did it bother him for days? Is that really what was bothering him for days? I feel like a bad performance would have amplified that he was already perturbed about something. And I think a lot of that went back to personal interactions that were going on, and maybe a dissatisfaction with Priscilla herself or other people that were around him, that it wasn't all tied to the performances, but that the performances were triggers for some of these emotions that he kept pent up.
If it came from him, yes. I think he always knew what he did.
Did all of you hide, let's say, reviews?
Yes.
You hid reviews
Yes,
from him?
Absolutely.
Did he not ask any of you at any time, did anybody say anything about me?
Yeah,
and what would you say to him?
They were great. Wonderful reviews. They were, they were just great. Or, well, they weren't the best, but hey, it's okay.
Why?
So Priscilla says that they would hide the reviews from Elvis because it would hurt him if he saw bad reviews. And so then Rona asked him, well, what would you tell him? And she says, well, we tell him it was a good review. Or we tell him they were horrible. They were horrible reviews. Now, that is like hilarious. You kept this from Elvis so that it would not hurt him. And then you went ahead and hurt him by telling him that they were bad reviews. Like, does that make any sense at all? This is something that happened. Like, this actually happened in some way. They hid some reviews, and then Elvis got mad that they hid them, and then she lashed out and said they were bad anyway. Now, I don't know when this happened or what day it was or about what performance. I can't give you a specific date. I could just say that from the way that she's phrasing this, this is at least a one-time occurrence that she threw this in his face that the reviews were bad, even though the others had gone to lengths to ensure that he did not see the reviews. Again, just my opinion. Can't prove it in any way. But that brings us to the end of the show. So if you want to leave your opinion in the chat, in the comments, please feel free. Also, be sure to hit that like button and to make sure that you're subscribed. We're going to go out of here on a song like we always do. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today and spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. We're going to go out of here on Sealed in Gold. You all keep on taking care of business.
In the hush of a Vegas night, he called a close, no stage, no line. Slipped a ring on both her hands, no crowd to cheer, no wedding band, just love, just prayer, just time grown old, a vow unspoken, sealed in gold. Two hearts carved in 24K, in peace, in quiet display. No diamonds loud, no eagles cry, just tenderness that doesn't lie. Worn near her skin, where stories hold a whisper of him, sealed in gold. My love, to give, but something whole, the myth, the memory, sealed in gold. No velvet throne, no final show, just gravel roads where true love blows. He gave her life, he gave her soul, and left behind a heart to hold. He loved my life. He wrote it in chains, a promise for through joy and pain, not just to give something bold, the myth and memory. Sealed in gold, sealed in gold, sealed in gold. I was sitting by your side in Lisa's room with your hand in mine when you whispered of December in a church you'd already seen. You spoke of rosebuds on my dress, gold sparks shining when I turned, and I felt like a storybook princess in a world I'd finally earned. You said you'd tell the world in Memphis, 2 weeks and you'd say my name. Talk to children in the quiet like a candle's gentle flame. But the morning stole you from me like a breath that slipped away, and the plans we made together all dissolved in a single day. Oh love, I'm walking through the shadows with the glass slippers you left behind. I'll reach for you in the silence, but only memory answers mine. A part of me went with you where the spirit and the body meet, and I'm learning how to live again with one heart broken, one still beating at your feet. You said life and death were woven, 2 threads in the same design, but I shook as I knelt beside you, calling your name like it still was mine. Lisa cried and ran from the doorway, her world falling like shattered glass, and I held the ache inside me as the moment turned and passed. You always said that love was light, a spark God placed in every soul. Now I search for it in the darkness, trying to trust what I can't control. If distance closes in the ending, then maybe you're not far at all. Maybe you're just in the quiet where the spirit hears the call. Oh love, I'm walking through the shadows with the glass slippers you left behind. I reach for you in the silence, but only memory answers mine. A part of me went with you where the spirit and the body meet, and I'm learning how to live again with one heart broken, one still beating at your feet. I'll keep the dreams you gave me, no one can take them away, and I'll carry your light inside me till we meet again someday. For love is stronger than sorrow, and faith is stronger than fear, and I feel you still beside me, soft as a whisper in my ear. I'm a steam old pickup truck. Graceland's calling me home. Pulled over by the water, saw that white cross shine. Missed it cold in the sunrise, felt the spirit in my mind. I got the crossfire blues burning deep in my soul. Concrete and eternal, Lord, it makes me whole. From the pasture to the stage, from the ranch to summer pews, I'm singing hallelujah with these crossfire blues. Sat down in the dry grass, hands folded on my knees, peaceful as a prayer, like a good omen breeze. Family by the fire, friends gathering round, that cross stood tall, said this land was holy.